Hi, everyone, and welcome to NCBOLD's Plot Twist, Uniting Classroom Community and Stirring Up Reading Revelry. I'm Rachel Ray, and I am the creator of this presentation. So if you would like to follow along, I have a QR code you can scan for these slides, or you can use the bit.ly link below. And you're welcome to follow along on your own on these slides as we move through the presentation, because there are several links that you can click to open up templates that I'm going to be providing for you today. So first, I am your reader-in-chief. My name is Rachel Ray. I'm the 2023 Burroughs Wellcome Fund Western Region Teacher of the Year. I teach Spanish at Madison High School and Madison County Schools, and when I'm not teaching, I love farming, I love mountains, flowers, and hiking. On the left is a picture of my dog Gabby, and that's a picture on our Christmas tree farm. And then there's a picture of me and my husband Matthew, and we love spending time together on our farms and just hanging out in the great outdoors. So for today, we're going to read the back cover a little bit and get to know one another. We've got a section on how to create classroom community and how to create connections with characters or whatever text we're reading. And then we're going to figure out how to get a little bit more involved in our text through art analysis. And then in chapter 4, I'm going to show you how to create community and a little healthy, friendly competition. And then we'll have some time to reflect at the very end and review our strategies. So let's dive in. So here's our little dice breaker. You are more than welcome to answer any question you would like and send me your answer in an email, and my email will be at the end of this presentation. So I'm going to answer one for myself so you can get to know me a little bit better. And that is, what was the last book you read? The last book I read was The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, and it was incredible. I absolutely loved it. Very poignant. I love historical fiction, and I thought she did an incredible job just telling that story so beautifully. So that was the last book I read. So if you would like to share any of these, please send me an email and let me know a little bit about yourself. I would love to hear from you. So let's get into chapter 1 and how we create classroom community. I'm a firm believer in classroom community. I've seen the effects of it, the positive effects of it, and it is really easily done, but I think it changes everything when it comes to classroom management, managing behaviors in your classroom, creating relationships not only between yourself and your students, but also between your students and themselves. Oftentimes, teachers will have great relationships with their students one-on-one, but sometimes students don't have great relationships amongst themselves in their own classroom. So I want to give you some strategies to help create some community within your classroom among your students so that your students are fully aware of who's in the room, and maybe they might make some new friends. So I always start out my morning with a SEL check-in. I start off every class period with this. I never ever start the day without it. I have an icebreaker, or I shouldn't say an icebreaker. I have a bell warmer when they walk in. They start that, we review it, and then immediately I do a SEL morning check-in. And SEL stands for Social Emotional Learning. And this doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. It's just a check-in to see how your kids are doing in the classroom, what the mood of the room might be, what emotion the kids might be bringing in for the day. And when I start this at the beginning of the year, I always set the expectation and remind them of the why. This is how we do this, and this is why we do this. And then I'm very consistent in my routine. I always want students to know that there's purpose behind everything we do. Even if it feels silly, even if it looks silly, like these guinea pigs on the right, there's always purpose in what we do. And so the purpose behind an SEL check-in is that we know what's in the room for the morning. So for example, if we're doing an SEL check-in, I always make sure that everybody in the room is paying attention. We all know if students are saying things out loud verbally, we are all paying attention. We are all being respectful of that, because it's important to know that later on when we work in groups, and we work in groups quite a bit in my room, that if someone said they were feeling like an 8, because they just had a really rough night. That might be important to know if you're working with that person in a group later on. They're not feeling their best today. We need to give them a little bit of grace. And if for some reason they fly off the handle at you, it's not because they're mad at you. It's probably because they're processing an emotion from the night before. So I always remind students that there is purpose behind this. We want to get to know one another. And it helps us to understand why people behave the way they do in the classroom. Hopefully we have positive behaviors, but if we have that off chance where someone's just wilding out and going off the walls, we can have that morning check-in to say, okay, well, they were at 8 and they've had a rough night. So I also have a whole deck of slides that have just random little pictures like this that you're welcome to use. So you can grab those SEL check-in slides and edit them however you would like. So SEL, this is kind of my why that I use this every day in my classroom. I think SEL creates connections in the classroom, not only between you and the student, but also between students and other students, which in turn creates community in your classroom. When people are comfortable with one another, when they know one another. When you have community, you also have student confidence. Students feel good when they are comfortable in the place they are at. And when you have student confidence, you're going to have student achievement. And so it's this giant circle that all comes back to SEL. SEL creates connections within the classroom, which creates community, which builds confidence among students. And when students are confident, they will do well and they will succeed and achieve and meet their goals. So that's why we do this. So here's a couple examples that I use in my classroom. If you just want it to be quick and easy, just have students say a number. I'm a 1, 2, 3, or 4. Or if you don't want to do this verbally and you're just getting the students kind of warmed up to the idea and they don't really want to share out loud how they're doing, just have them put a number up to their chest with their hands. And that way you're just looking around, you're observing how many 3s there are, you're observing how many 2s there are, you're observing if there's any 4s in the room, and maybe later you can have a private conversation with those students just to check in and be a little bit more in depth, but then you're also not putting them on the spot immediately. So sometimes I will start off the year with one of these just to kind of build a little confidence among students that, you know, I'm here for you. We're not trying to expose you in any way. And then later we'll get into something like this, where I have these little gifts on the screen and they can just choose whichever one they would like and maybe give me a brief, short explanation of why they're feeling or which one they're feeling and why. So maybe they could say, well, I'm the girl who's fallen asleep on the book because I'm super tired because I had a basketball game and it didn't end until 11 o'clock last night. And that way, you know, if they're looking a little sleepy, it's really not you. They're just exhausted from playing hard the night before. I also love these right here because this kind of builds up some vocabulary in your classroom. I use these in Spanish a lot, but this is also something really great that you can use in your elementary classrooms or in your English classrooms or in any classroom because you're giving them some vocabulary options that they might not have already floating around in their brain, but they can just use it to pinpoint exactly how they're feeling and build up some of their vocabulary. So how are you feeling today? And they can say, I'm feeling like I'm feeling like a 2 because I am ecstatic. And they can choose from that word cloud a word that they feel like represents whatever mood that they're in today. So anytime I do SEL, my SEL check-ins take about 15 minutes in the morning, and always after that, I do a little brain break with my students. It just gets them up out of their seats. We've all checked in with one another. Let's get up out of our seats. Let's do a little bit of movement, and then let's hop into today's lesson. So this is a brain break that you can use. It's called a this or that, and I just have students stand up out of their chair and pick one or the other. So first off, and I always do this at the beginning of the year, I say, all right, are you a over or are you a under type of person? Let's figure it out. And so students move to one side or the other. I will also play along with them so they can get to know me as well as while I'm getting to know them. I think that's very important that they get to know me as well. I'll do another one. Are you sticky notes or are you flare pens? This is a great one for teachers if you're leading PD because everybody's got a favorite. I'm more of a sticky note girl. But it gets them up, moving, it resets their brain, and then they sit down and they're ready to go. We've checked in, we've re-energized, now let's get to work. And it's a very simple routine that I do every single day in my classroom, every single period, 15 minutes a day, and then we move on. So another great way, and this is included in my SEL check-in as part of that first 15 minutes of class, is a weekly calendar. This creates such great classroom community, and I have it updated. I only do a week at a time, and I update it on Monday. So on Monday during SEL check-in, we talk about every event that's happening in the week. Are there birthdays in the classroom? Are there birthdays in your family? Do your friends have birthdays? All right, let's write them down on the board and let's keep a check on them throughout the week. Do we have games? Do your parents have an anniversary? Is it your pet's birthday on Wednesday? Do we have band concerts? So this is a great way to involve anybody and everybody in your classroom community. I teach at the high school, so we have a lot of clubs going on. So we talk about club events, and then we review it every single day. So for example, if we come in on Monday, we update it, and then on Tuesday, we're talking about what's happening on Tuesday, and then we're looking ahead to the events on Friday. That way everybody's involved, and the kid who might not be involved in anything gets a chance to be involved because we're talking about all the events that affect our entire school. So, for example, we could be just celebrating a student's pet's birthday. Everybody loves that. And so we'll just talk about, oh my gosh, it's so-and-so's pet dog's birthday, and they're turning 2 today, and their dog's name is Cookie, and it's the most precious dog you've ever seen. And it just creates a connection in the classroom because someone else may be like, oh my gosh, well, I have a dog named Cookie too. And it just creates a beautiful bond in the classroom where we're celebrating everything. It creates moments where we will learn something about one another. And it's just really making us all aware of all the events that are going on in our lives, in our personal lives, and the classroom. So I love a good calendar. Whoop, skipped a slide. So if you have an SEL strategy that you want to share, please email me. I'm always looking to expand my SEL strategies. But if you have one that you connect with the most, a calendar, a SEL check-in, or a brain work, let me know. I would love to hear from you. And then tell me some ways that you connect with your students. If you have a great idea that's working in your classroom, let's share that. I would love to know. And how are you helping create connections between students? I think this is a big one for us to think about. And this took me a really long time to think about in my own classroom. How am I creating connections, not just between me and the student, but between the students? I really want them to bond with one another so that we have a really great classroom community. So if you have something that's going great in your classroom, please share it with me. So let's look into chapter 2. So we've got our classroom community started. Now let's look into reading and how we get those connections with our characters that we might be reading about in our books. So the first thing that I love to do in my classroom is something called crock charms. And I have a template that you can use. Feel free to click on that link and make a copy of it. And have your students select a character, key points in a text, or a key term. You don't even have to be reading a novel. You can simply use this as a key term review in your classroom for any kind of unit. So ask students to design crock charms that represent a particular scene, a character, or a key term, and they have to be able to explain their thinking as to why they chose each charm. So this gives them a little bit of creativity. It helps them to think outside of the box and really make a connection to the real world. And what I love to do after my students have created their crock charms for their character to represent them, I love to have students display their crock charms in the classroom to others and then ask the class to guess which character, or what the charm represents. So not only do the kids have a personal connection with it, but now we're inviting the whole class to try to think outside the box and think about, okay, what could this rainbow crock charm represent based on the story that we have just read? Which character could this possibly represent and why? And then they have to explain that thinking. So it's just that auditory processing, making some greater connections. And when those students are making those extended connections, that's what's going to stick in their minds, and it's going to help them remember things long term. So that's one option, a creative option that you can use. This other option is one that I personally love, and the kids love it too. It's called a walk-up song. So if you've ever been to a baseball game, you notice that when the batter walks up to the plate, a specific song plays for them. That's their hype song. That's the song that represents them. And every time that specific batter walks up to the plate, their song is played. So I'd use that in a similar way to create connections amongst characters in novels that we were reading in class. So I'll usually place students in groups of 2 to 4. I usually like a good group of 3. But have them choose 1 to 3 key terms or characters from a text, and then ask them to work as a team to identify a walk-up song that would represent the key term or the character. So they have to be able to explain why they chose each song. And I love this because it gets them really thinking outside the box. It gets them thinking about a specific line in a song that would represent their character, and they have to think about why. Why would this specific line represent their character? And this, an extension opportunity, just like with the croc charms, is that I usually have the students play a 10-second clip of each song for the class, and then the class has to guess which character or key term it matches and come up with a rationale as to why. So it's just a fun little way to get kids engaging deeper with the text and with the characters and making those outside connections. So I would love to hear from you. You can create a croc charm using the template, or you can come up with a walk-up song for any one of these 4 characters on the screen. For Taylor Swift, for Abraham Lincoln, Rosa Parks, Elon Musk, what would be a walk-up song or a croc charm that would represent any one of these individuals? So feel free to share me your thoughts and ideas. I would love to see and hear from you. My kids love these options, and it's so creative and it's so fun, and it just really provides an opportunity to make a deeper connection with our text. So now, if that wasn't artsy enough for you, let's get into an even deeper art analysis with our text. So this is one of my favorites. I love this. It is a great opportunity for kids to think critically about all aspects of a character in a text. So what I do is I have students choose a character and complete a body part analysis using this layout. I'll show you that in just a minute. So students will design their character on a separate piece of paper, but they must have all the elements included from the analysis layout. And once that is complete, have students design an outfit for their character and justify why they chose each piece of the outfit. So why would they make the character wear the specific shirt they designed? What kind of shoes would the character be wearing and why? So they have to think about this based on what they know about the character. So let me show you this template. So this is what it looks like. And like I said, you can use this, or you can just post it on your board and have students copy it down. But for example, for their head, they need to write 3 thoughts that their character might have throughout the novel, or throughout the chapter if you're going chapter by chapter. For the mouth, have your students write a quote from your character that's essential to the character's personality, and then have them maybe write a rationale as to why they think that quote is essential to the personality. The eyes, identify 2 things that the character would like to see happen. So this kind of makes the students think about, okay, it might not be explicitly in the text, but what do I think they would like to see happen based on the events in the story? Their heart, identify 2 things that the character loves. The stomach, this is just a fun one. Identify something the character would like to eat. The hands, what is something the character would like to have? A phone, write a message the character would like to receive and tell who the message is from. Legs, where would the character like to go and why? And feet, where do you feel like the character will take this character? I think I need to edit that. All right. So there's all kinds of options here that I think that should say, where do you feel like the feet will take this character in the future? I think that's what that should say. I'll make an edit to that. And you can use this white background if you're low on color printing. So there's tons of options here to get kids really thinking deeper about each character and thinking about why the character is making the decisions that they are making. And then when you have them design an outfit for them, this is what it could potentially look like. So this is a couple that my students have done in my own classroom. We were reading a short story about a boy who was very cruel to his parents. And so they designed what they thought the character would look like, and they did some analysis on the character's thoughts and feelings and actions, and they had to explain all the details of the character's outfits as well as the bubbles around the character. And it was really fun, and the kids got into it. Another artistic option that you can use for your students is the trading cards. I have a template also you can use, but you can have students create trading cards for characters in a text, and so students would have to rank the character's star power, and there's like 5 stars at the bottom of this template for each character. And they have to provide a rationale for the level of star power that they chose for each character. So for example, if they're giving a specific character a 3 out of 5 stars, then they need to tell you why that they chose that. Versus if they gave another character a 5 out of 5, make a comparison. Why are you thinking this way? What's your evidence? And that way they're supporting their thoughts from the text. And then have students share out after completion and engage students in a discussion about which characters are stronger than others and which character might be considered the most powerful in the entire book and why. So this is just a way to create discussion in your classroom as well as give kids a creative option. So let's look into chapter 4, community and competition. So competition is something that teachers either love or hate. And usually if teachers hate it, it's because they've had a bad experience where students, especially high schoolers and middle schoolers, can get really out of hand because they're very competitive and feelings get hurt, and they're often not good sports about things if they tend to lose. So this is why those SEL check-ins are very important. So we're building those bonds. And then the discussions that they have throughout the novel with the crock charms, with the walk-up songs, with the trading cards, gives them an opportunity to get to know one another a little bit better. So that way the competition is not as hurtful or unsportsmanlike. But I like to give teachers a couple ideas that always keeps the playing field fair. I'm a high school teacher, and for the longest time I always heard students tell me, "Oh, this game is rigged. They always win. I never win." So here's a couple ways that you can level the playing field and keep it anybody's game at any time. So here is a strategy called the lucky reading game. So if you have a text, put your students in groups, 3 to 4, and have them read a text together. It can be a short story, it can be a chapter in a novel, whatever. Have them read the text together. And their task, and put them on a timer, their task is to make sure that all students in their group understand that every student in the group is responsible for knowing every detail of the text. That is very important. Their job as a group is to make sure everybody knows every detail of whatever selected text they're reading. Then have students create questions on a piece of notebook paper that they think you will ask based on the text. So they're trying to come up with questions that they think you as the teacher are going to ask them based on what they've just read. It's also a great review because students are getting in that time to think about answers to questions, thinking a little bit deeper about the text. And then when you as a teacher are ready, or when the timer has gone off, have one student from each group come up to the front of the class with a whiteboard and a marker. You as the teacher are going to ask the question, any review question that you like, so you're going to need a list of questions as well. And let the group members that are in the front of the class answer the questions without help from their team. So what you would say is, okay, let's say you have a story and you're like, what is the name of the main character in this story? So each person is going to write their answer on the whiteboard, and then they're going to reveal whenever you tell them to reveal. And so if the person at the front gets the answer correct, the students can take a card from a deck of cards that you have laying in the classroom. If they anticipated the question, they can take another card. So that's where they're getting rewarded for anticipating questions and writing those questions down. You never want to assign them something that's just busy work for no purpose. You want them to get rewarded for their hard work and for thinking like a teacher. So give them another card from the deck if they anticipated the question. But here's the catch. Students cannot look at the card values until the end when they tally their points. So there's an opportunity to earn points on this game. First is from answering the question correctly. Second, if they anticipated the question. And so they'll grab 2 cards if they anticipated the question and got the answer correct. But they have no idea what the number on the cards are. They cannot look at that until the end. And then you just swap up or swap out a new person for each round. And so here is how I assign values to my cards. I number the cards, or the number cards equal the number value. So if it's A 2, 3, 4, 5, those are just whatever their point value is. But an ace is 20 points, worth 20 points. A joker is worth 0. Jack is worth 11 points. Queen is 12. And king is 13. And so at the end of the lucky reading game, after you've reviewed all your questions, then they get to flip over their cards and tally up their points. So at any point, it's anybody's game. Everybody's getting rewarded for answering questions. Everybody's getting rewarded if they anticipated questions. But you never know if, let's say one team gets 2 cards because they got it right and anticipated the question. Those 2 cards could be a 2 and a 5, adding up to 7 points. But let's say a team got the question right but didn't anticipate the points, and they draw an ace. Well, they've got 20 points. So it's anybody's game at any time. Another way that you can add a little spice to the game and keep students on their toes is at the beginning of the round, and this is totally optional, before you even start the game, you can draw a secret card from the deck at the beginning of the game, and at the end of the game, reveal that card. So for example, at the beginning of the game, you can draw, let's say, a 3 of hearts. And at the end, if a team has a 3 of hearts, they can double their points. So it keeps kids on their toes. It doesn't leave anybody behind because kids have no idea at any point what their point value may be for their team. They only get to tally at the end. So kids have no idea who's ahead at any time, which creates buy-in the entire round of the game. Because what you see happening when kids are playing games is if they see a group is getting ahead, they feel discouraged and they give up because they're like, oh my gosh, I can never get to that point. My team's never going to get ahead. We're always going to be behind, and they give up and they lose interest. At this point, they never know who's ahead. They never know who's going to win. They never know who has what point value. So they're invested at all times. So that's my tip for you to keep it a little spicy and a little just the competition being friendly. I also love to play Who Has the Answer. And this is another way you can keep kids engaged for the entire time, and it really keeps kids focused on the task at hand. So what I do with this is I create a table with answers on a Word document to review questions about a text. So I have the questions, but the students have the table with the answers. They have no idea what the questions will be. I divide students into teams, 4 to 5 people, and then I give students the answer document and tell them to cut up the table and distribute answers evenly amongst themselves. So for example, if I have 20 questions, the kids are going to have 20 answers. And so if there are 20 answers and there's 5 people on a team, each person will have 4 answers. So they're going to divide those answers up by themselves. But the kicker is each person on the team is responsible solely for the answers in their hands. So they are not responsible for the answers that their other teammates have. They are only focused on the 4 that they have in their hand. At that point, when everybody's ready, I am going to ask a question, and students have to ring in for their team using this buzzer website. So this is a great website because it lets you know exactly who rang in first, and so you're not having to do any guesswork as to figure out, okay, who threw up their hand first. It was at the same time, I have no idea. This website does it all for you. But as soon as you ask the question, students are looking through the answers only in their hands. And so if they have the answer, they're trying to figure out, okay, does my answer match the question that they just asked, that the teacher just asked? And if they have it, then they buzz in. But if they don't have it, they're having to rely on their team to be engaged and on point to make sure that they're looking at their answers. So it's very much a group effort to determine, okay, you've got to be paying attention to your answers to this question. So the team that buzzes in first has the correct answer. They win the round, and they get a card to add to their pile. Very similar to the lucky reading game. The kids have no idea what the card value is until they get to the end of the round or the end of the game, and then we tally it up all together. So, final reflection. Which one of the strategies can you see working well in your classroom? I would love to hear from you. Did you resonate with SEL check-ins and the calendar? Did you love the crock charms or the walk-up songs? Are you more of an artistic teacher where you love to create moments of creativity in your classroom and the body part analysis and the trading cards resonated with you? Or do you love that friendly competition where it's just a little unfair in the sense that it can be anybody's game at any time, and you want to try out the lucky reading game or who has the answer in your classroom? Please let me know. And if you have any questions and would like a little further explanation of any of these strategies, I would love to sit with you and chat with you. You can email me. We can set up a Zoom call. However I can support you, please let me know. So let's connect. Email me with any questions or feedback. This is my email, rachelray@madisonkTwelve.net. Please spell my name correctly. I always tell my students at school, if I don't respond within 48 hours, you probably left out the A in my name. So just make sure that you are spelling it correctly, and I will do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. This is a survey from NCBOLD that you are welcome to take, just to provide a little feedback on this presentation. But like I said, if you have any questions or feedback, or just want to answer those SEL questions at the beginning, don't hesitate to reach out. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening to this presentation, and I hope I've given you some strategies that will get your students excited about reading, excited about being in your classroom, and some strategies that will build some community within your classroom that is healthy, that is friendly, and will really create an environment where students feel confident and will succeed. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day.